Hi, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our panel, Bringing Equity and Inclusion into Computer Science. I'm Kate Atchison, the Associate Director of the Iribe Initiative for Inclusion and Diversity in Computing here in the Department of Computer Science. Today, we have brought together a fabulous group of panelists who are actively working together to diversify the tech sector, from fighting algorithmic bias to creating safe spaces to educating the next generation and more. Leading this panel is our own Professor Emerita, Dr. Jan Plain, founder of the Maryland Center for Women in Computing and the Iribe Initiative for Inclusion and Diversity in Computing, as well as the principal investigator of the Breakthrough Tech DC efforts. And I'm excited to share that yesterday, Dr. Jan was awarded the inaugural ACM 60 Broadening Participation in Computing Education Award. Dr. Jan recently retired from the University of Maryland and is now the associate professor at Ripon College in Wisconsin, where she is continuing her broadening participation work with tons of efforts that she can keep sharing. But now Dr. Jan is going to quickly share an overview of our diversity and inclusion efforts in the department.
The department's work improving diversity started soon after I began at the University of Maryland in 1989. However, it was not unified and scattered across different initiatives and different people. So in 2014, we started the Maryland Center for Women in Computing to bring these efforts together under one name because we thought unifying them would make them more sustainable. Soon after, because of a phone call with Brendan, where he agreed with me that we really needed to expand diversity to all areas of diversity, all areas of representation, right? We started the Initiative for Inclusion and Diversity in Computing, which we often call I4C for short because that name is way too long. Both of these centers are built on three pillars: outreach to younger students to make sure we fix the pipeline effort of those coming into the field, the support of students and faculty here at the university so we can maintain it, and then research so that we can spread the news about what we're doing and have it duplicated at other schools. We are happy to have you join us to hear from our panelists about these critical areas and the success of bringing equity and inclusion into the computer science department at Maryland.
All of our panelists are University of Maryland computer science alum. Each will share more of their journeys, but here is a very brief introduction to our panelists that I even had to cut down more. They could keep going. All right, Ruchi Kansal Gupta has over 15 years of experience building and leading teams to solve complex problems and delivering innovative solutions. She has a proven track record of success in multiple industries, including the federal sector, child welfare, entertainment, finance, healthcare, and technology. Ruchi's career journey has held diverse roles at top companies such as IBM, CTW, Sony, Google, and Apple, and she founded her startup, Mona Media, an AI video streaming technology company. Ruchi is also a passionate advocate for women in tech education. She leads Google's New York City's Women Tech Makers in New York, organizing events with over 60,000 viewers and multi-thousand professional attendees. She is also actively involved with the New York Junior League and Alkavede, a literacy org that helps underrepresented communities in rural villages in India and Nepal. Cassandra Lewis, who is remote, is the head of product for avatar creation and editing in the metaverse at Meta. In this role, she guides the strategic vision for digital identity across all of Meta's platforms. Prior to Meta, Cassandra led product engineering and design for third-party living room experiences on Amazon Prime Video, as well as nonfiction featured experiences for Amazon Kindle. Her experience began at Microsoft, where she managed critical feature launches for the Office suite, Office on the iPad, and Xbox One. She also spearheaded communication technology at OpenTable, including the implementation of direct messaging features. Cass is joining us remotely from London, England. Dr. Moses Namara is a dedicated researcher with a profound passion for exploring the relationships and interaction between Human in Computers, with special interests in user privacy and artificial intelligence. Originally from Uganda, Moses harnesses his extensive research expertise and lived experiences to discover new user experiences and patterns. He is a steadfast advocate committed to advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion in computing, actively exploring strategies to make computing opportunities even more inclusive. For his innovative contributions to the field, Moses has earned prestigious accolades, including being honored as a top 35 innovator under 30 by MIT Technology Review, named among Uganda's top 40 under 40, and recognized as a Meta Research Fellow and Scholar. He earned his PhD in human-centered computing from Clemson University in 2022 and currently works as a research engineer in Apple, based in Austin, Texas. Yasmin, say your last name? Abdi. Yasmin Abdi is an experienced technical advisor on security, privacy, and data protection. She has over 5 years of experience as a software engineer and security engineering manager and has built and managed in-house software and security solutions at Snap, Meta, and Google. The technology she has built are currently being used by over 100 million daily active users worldwide. Given her unrelenting entrepreneurship spirit and keen interest in information security, Yasmin started NoHack, a government contracting company focused on cyber solution. As the CEO of NoHack, Ms. Abdi takes a hands-on approach to deliver high-impact solutions. She aims to protect her clients by providing an extra layer of all-around protection. Elias Gonzalez is the Curriculum Innovation Lead with Breakthrough Tech and lecturer for the Computer Science Department at the University of Maryland, teaching our CMSC 125 Introduction to Computing, as well as our Intro Object-Oriented Programming class. Before starting at the University of Maryland, Elias taught for 5 years in Montgomery County Public Schools, teaching courses range from AP Computer Science to Python programming, and English as a second language, AP Computer Science principles. He is an alum from the University of Maryland in computer science and curriculum instructions, and Elias also worked for us as a computer science ambassador for our ComSci Connect program. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jan and to moderate our panel with our fabulous panelists. We are excited.
First off, I'd like to ask each of you to tell us about a time at UMD that most closely relates to your current connection to diversity, equity, and inclusion work. So what was the spark? I thought I'd go in the order that you're on the poster so that you're not. So that starts with you, Richie.
Okay, so. Testing, okay. My time at UMD when I came in 1989, that most closely relates to my current connection to DEI was my first job on campus at the Computer Science Center, where I help students community with tech services. They were simple tasks like creating or resetting email passwords, helping print programs, understanding how to format a WordPerfect document, converting docs to Mac Word, or getting shortcuts to PF keys. I was grateful to my friend Howard Gobioff for recommending me to look into this type of opportunity to find a further belonging into CS. While the job became an important part of my college experience, it taught me the importance of a supportive community and mentorship, and how essential it is, not only for my own personal growth, but members of my community. Today, I lead initiatives through the Google developers community and New York City Google Women Tech Makers as their lead ambassador, and help build programs like GCP certificate roadmaps, valuable shares from the industry, experts that help align students to have a competitive advantage, and mentor women who are returning back to work after taking time off.
Thank you. Cass, can you answer the same question?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I would have to say my experience in the Association for Women Computing at University of Maryland was really that spark. I think joining and being in the space and the same orbit as a bunch of incredible women that are as excited about and nerdy about technology as I am. And then I think us encouraging each other really was one of those, I think, special moments for me. And it's something that we still talk to, we still talk and engage with each other to this day. But I think also carrying on that level of mentorship and that level of camaraderie and seeking and finding those groups in every company that I've joined. And in times when those groups did not exist, starting that group and making sure that we're kind of keeping that momentum going. So I would definitely say those were some of the great memories. And yeah, I'd say that kind of carried on throughout my career in different companies.
Thank you. And Moses.
For me, it's basically, I think, two things. Number one was being admitted to Maryland and coming and sitting into an auditorium as beautiful as this one. And by looking around the room and being the only one who looks like me, learning so much interesting things. And I was like, it can't be only me who finds these things interesting. There must be many of us who probably are also as interested, but maybe either don't know or are just too afraid. Because when you hear about computer science, it's like nerdy things for work for nerdy people, and probably could be intimidating. And so my number one reason became I needed to bring in other people to have more fun and learn these things and participate. The second one was watching you, Dr. Plain. I remember seeing you zigzagging around Evie Williams and, putting different programs and camps for the ladies together and women, and being like, why is she so devoted to this thing, right? But I could see the impact that had in terms of the ladies in the room when they came to our classes, how they felt they belonged, how they saw many of their peers in the classroom, how they enjoyed and had work groups outside of the classroom to help out each other with assignments and stuff like that. And so walking around campus, just having this thought around my head is like, there gotta be something that I can do already being in this space. So to whom much is given, a lot is expected. So I decided to take the mantle on. And I have, especially when I went to grad school, brought in a lot of opened a lot of avenues for Black people to get into AI, to get into conferences, to travel to other countries, to attend conferences, to get visas. It's a struggle. So just being in the trenches with them and trying to make sure that we create as much opportunity as we can, I think has been my drive.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Testing, okay. I think for me, it would also be two things. First is the clubs that I was involved in at UMD. So when I started back in 2015, there wasn't a lot of woman-centered clubs, so I actually started the first. It was called Ladies of Computer Science, and I think that group of women and the support and the community that I had there just brought a sense of peace and belonging, and started to see people that looked like myself. So definitely the clubs and also the conferences. So we were able to travel to Grace Hopper and Afrotech and all these amazing conferences. So I think those would probably be my two as well.
Leah.
I think for me, a big part of why I am passionate about diversity and education is coming to the University of Maryland, and much like Moses said, not really seeing people that look like me. And I think that was really hard for me my first couple of years that I was here, not really relating to a lot of students, not having the background as a lot of students. But my parents, as most immigrant parents are, when I would go home and feel discouraged, it'd be like, we didn't travel to the U.S. uphill both ways to have you give up now, and you deserve to be there. And that encouragement, I feel like, is not always there at home or amongst peers, and especially in computing where competition is the norm between peers. That's what I think I hope to be to students, is that encouraging, you are going to struggle. It is going to be difficult. It is rigorous, but you deserve to be here no matter what your background is and where you're going to be afterwards. But it's important that you find your space in computing, and hopefully in this building and both in the major as well, they find that space through us.
So then, Cass, a question for you. Can you speak directly about the role community has played in your experience? How did getting support, finding community, and recognition shape your experience at UMD?
I would say that it was core to my experience at UMD. So I go back to the Association for Women in Computing, and I go back to some of the other diversity groups that I was a part of then. And I would definitely say that there's a combination, I think quite a few people have already said here, of not just seeing other people that look like you, but having the familiarity of we're both women, or there's a group of women, and there's certain things that we would want to talk about in conjunction with some of our studies, or even from like being Black. I think there's some cultural things that you'd want to kind of talk to and kind of hark to as part of just kind of your studies and part of your kind of notion of community. I think in terms of getting recognition, it feels good to be recognized for things that you're really passionate about. In fact, if you look behind me, there's a leadership award from University of Maryland back in my day when I attended school that I actually still keep up on my wall. It's something that I really do kind of, personally, I look at that and it still gives me the good feels of, back in the day, that there's a level of leadership there and you want to carry that throughout your career. So I would definitely say that shaping my experience, community, and that connection was absolutely central to it. So I think it's definitely something that's important.
Yasmin, can you answer the same question?
Yeah, I think for me, my first friend in UMD was another Black student. We definitely gravitated towards each other just because, we kind of looked like each other. And we had each other's back throughout our whole time. Whenever there was a conference or an opportunity or anything that we would see, we would always be like, hey, like sign up for this program, sign up for this fellowship. So that like friendship kind of introduced me to opening up doors for my first internship. So I think the sense of community here was like unbelievably strong. And it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. Still have the same friendships and the same community today. So yeah, I really thank Maryland for that.
So Moses, how do you recommend navigating being an underrepresented person in computer science? What has helped you to feel comfortable and confident in that space?
So for me, navigating is about using what you have in front of you to get you to the next level. So number one, once I realized that probably weren't so many of us, I just now looked for groups that I found interesting, shared interests. One of those was hackathons. I used to love to go to hackathons. So I was walking around and went to Startup Show, and I met a bunch of nerds, and they were planning a hackathon. And I was like, yep, I think I found my crew. And so they just saw me attend many of the events and be amongst them. And basically what that did is break down a little bit of the barriers, me learning about them learning about me, and finding that we shared a similar interest in computing. Even if we came from different backgrounds, they probably had been programming since they were kids. And me, I was just starting to learn about programming at university, right? And so that helped just finding same affinity groups that we shared same interests. The other thing is also thinking ahead, long term. I like to think a little bit of what happens next from now. And so when I was about to graduate, I used to hear professors come and be like, oh, I'm gonna go out and I have to attend a conference, I have to go and do some research. What's this research about? They never show us the research. They come and teach us the lessons, but what is this research that they're talking about? And so I got the interest to approach one of my professors, Michelle Mazuruk, I think was the professor. So I went to her and said, I want to learn about this thing called research in computing. And so she introduced me to that, and one thing led to another. But I think from my experience, having been in different colleges around the country, having been in the Valley and in different workplaces, I think I've seen a difference between when there is diversity and inclusion and when it is not there. And the difference is this. The difference is that you're gonna, the underrepresented person is gonna spend a lot of their time trying to fit in rather than concentrating on the actual work that needs to get done. Because you're always conscious, how do I speak? How do I present myself? Am I saying the right thing? Is it, because you're looking for someone to give you that feedback. Am I on the right track? Am I on the wrong track? Am I, so you spend a lot of time thinking about that stuff rather than actually maybe the mechanics of what needs to get done. But in rooms where I've been, they're very diverse. We have ladies, we have people from different places. That ceases to be the case. Now it becomes about the innovation. And that's why I think they say diversity fosters more ideas and more innovation and more creativity, because everybody's ideas are shared and put on the table and dissected. And so that's how we've been able to kind of try and navigate, is just finding groups that can help you propel you to the next level.
Well, we prepared a lot more questions than we have time for, so I'm going to jump ahead and sort of lump some together. And so my question for all of you will be, what kind of advice do you have to give to your younger self? And how can we make diversity, equity, and inclusion center to everything here? Cass, why don't we start with you, since we can see you now?
Oh, okay, perfect. I would say a couple of things. I think first is centered around people. So mentors, allies, and also sponsors, seeking those people. And I'll talk quickly about the difference between those things. I think a mentor is not just a single person. There's not like one mentor to rule them all. You find multiple that can actually complement different areas and aspects of your life. I think allies are people that understand or at least empathize with some of the things that you might be experiencing so that you can get feedback from them. And then finally, sponsors are the people that actually want to put you on their shoulder and push you a little bit higher. And I think finding those three different types of people in your environment is going to be important. And then I think the second thing in terms of like just personal growth, being yourself is really important. I think we often fall into the gap of, I had this running joke that, I would sit in a meeting and I would say, hi, everybody, on behalf of all Black people everywhere, I present to you the monthly business review. And it kind of feels like that, but not falling into that trap of like, I have to represent my race. Like, no, you're representing the best part of who you are, and you are being your authentic self. And I think that gives other people permission to accept that as you being you, and also for them to show up in that manner as well. And so I think I would probably say those two things: find the people, and then also find who you are and be the best version of that.
Yasmin.
Yeah, I would say that don't be afraid to ask questions. With technology changing every single day, we're all learning. We're all in the same place learning. If someone has 5 more years of experience or 10 or 20, whatever the case may be, with everything changing every day, we're just all learning. So don't be afraid to ask questions. People fake it until they make it all the time. And I remember talking to one of my directors at work, who's probably, I don't want to say their age, but a little older than I am. And I was like, hey, I feel a little bit of imposter syndrome. I'm not really sure. It's like first couple of years in the industry. And he was like, I feel imposter syndrome every single day. And I was like, oh, and you've been doing this for 30, 40 years. So I think for me, everyone's learning, everyone's still trying to figure it out still. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
And Moses.
So for me, I think it's just be very like as you said, just be yourself. The secret is to be yourself. But how do you show up? How do you be yourself in an environment that maybe is not designed for you, is what they say. And so the more you lean into your own inner strength, have trust in your beliefs, you're not here by mistake. It's not by chance or by luck that you're in the rooms and spaces that you are. So present the best version of yourself. but if you can do, I think for me, there are two things I always hear about, two things, and only very, very brief words that my mentors have shared with me. Number one is work hard, because so wherever you're going, oh, I'm going to University of Maryland, I got an opportunity. The one thing that someone told me is just work hard, and that was it, right? And so every time I would feel like, things are tough, I would just remember, work hard, and that would be it. Wherever the space that you're in, of course, work hard, and also extend opportunity to others if you can. I think has also been the rhyming. Yes, you're in these places, yes, you're in these spaces, but remember there are other people also maybe who might also need the same hand or opportunity. And so that's why even if you call me and I'm in Alaska, I'll fly down here, right? Because it's important that I be present and maybe, I don't know, even if I inspire one person in the room, that will be a job well done. And so always making sure that you create opportunity for others when you can.
Elias.
Yeah, it's two things I would tell myself. One is that's been echoed already is finding your community. And I think thanks to Brendan, thanks to Dr. Jan, right, I4C is that great community that, I feel like, preaching to the church of I4C to my students of like, go to the events, take advantage of these things, be present, like Moses just said, because your tuition fees go straight to that. And so you might as well take advantage, but also, it's good to have that community, whether, it's not just for academic stuff, but for social understanding, having that social capital of on campus as well is super important. The second thing that I often tell students who are unfortunately feeling down and have heavy imposter syndrome or feeling emotional in my office after exams or assignments and things like that is I feel like CS is one of those things where there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of showing off what you know, but there truly is no behind in computer science, I feel, because everyone's behind. There's AI that's moving so fast. There's all of these different technologies that are constantly changing that if you feel you're an expert at one moment, you're not an expert 5 minutes later. And that's something scary to a lot of students, but often it's, at least for me, it's comforting that I know that I can pick something up later on and I can be that ahead and catch up as much as I want to be, but I'm never quite behind. And so I think those two things would help me a lot if I was a student, for sure.
And Ruchi.
I would say remain curious and always seek help. So kind of like what, Elias and Moses and Jasmine have mentioned. Getting involved is so important, but leaning on each other is also very important. Don't be alone. Hone it into yourself, find your skill, and if that skill is true to who you are, go with it. That's something that Dr. Thelma Williams told me when I was here, when I was graduating. She said, take a look at yourself. You're graduating. What are you going to do in the next 5 years? Fast forward in the next 10 years. But remember, you took one skill and keep building on that skill. So if you have to lend on your community, whether it's coming back to your alma mater, whether it's, seeking organizations outside within your, community, do so. Don't be scared. That's basically what I would say.
I wondered if we had any questions from the audience. Oh, okay. Then I'm going to do the other one of how do you believe other people should be involved in the diversity, equity, and inclusion? So what advice do you give to anybody who wants to get involved in it and doesn't have that background to know?
I will take this one. I liked what Brandon said when I asked him about how he got involved in the building, right? He didn't know what he was getting himself into, right? And so that's the position you have to come at it. So for people who are interested, of course, they won't have the background or they won't know how to navigate the space, or they will be wondering, how best can I help? But the first step to take is to have the interest, the commitment, really, and be intentional. What I found about these, the diversity, equity, and inclusion issues, it doesn't happen by chance or happenstance. It's actually intentional and a lot of work, a lot of showing up, a lot of some, putting in money in some events, organizing, community building, putting people together, And it's not one time, it's not 2 times, it's constant every day, every year, every month. So it's a lot of continuous work that really stems from your interest, your commitment, and also the desire to help and propel and move and create opportunities for others. I think it's very important. Yesterday I was reading an article which was talking about AI, and one of the researchers, they were saying, create an image of a doctor, of a black doctor treating a white child, and the AI could not produce that, right? So if you're not in the room to actually then work and rectify that and say, think about those other corner cases that might happen, then even the field itself is not reaching its maximum potential as it should be and meeting everybody's needs. So that, I think, is intentionality and also having the interest and putting in the time as well.
Cass, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just, I think, echo Moses, and then I would also say be bold. If you want to get involved with something, in general in life, if there is a goal that you have or an interest that you have, and you feel that you are far from that goal or that achievement, tell everyone around you what you're looking to do, what you're looking to accomplish. Make sure that you never know what one small thing that you mentioned to a person that can blow up into an entirely new role for you in your career. And then I think also, in terms of being bold and just taking initiative and going in and finding what you're looking for, like ask questions, dive in. I think going back to the notion of imposter syndrome, I think that actually blocks a lot of people from jumping into things that are slightly outside of their comfort zone. But what I always tell people is, nothing ever grows without a little bit of pain. And so you have to be outside of your comfort zone in order for that growth to happen. Otherwise, there's no point if you're comfortable in everything. So I would definitely say, I would add the notion of being bold and just going for it. If you fall on your face, so what? Get up and then kind of try it again. So that would be my advice.
That was a really good answer. Does anybody else want to add to it?
Sure.
Oh, yes.
Similar to what has just been said by Cass and Moses, I feel like a lot of people coming into the equity space are concerned about saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing, when most people who are in those underrepresented groups, we're just happy that you're having these conversations. And so not fearing the big C word of getting canceled, which is not the case, right? If you have the best intentions and you work with people, that's really what matters and goes a long way with our students and with employees and all the people that you're working with. The second thing I'd like to say is, whether you're employer or your faculty, or I see a couple faculty members here as well, bringing in inclusivity and equity is not its own thing. It's just being a better instructor or being a better employee. These things go hand in hand with just best practices to begin with, and doesn't necessarily require you to make a special case for any one person. If, for my case, when I'm teaching my classes, I'm not specifically teaching towards the Black and Latino students. I'm making an effort to make all of my students feel welcome, and have practices and policies that are reaching all of them. And so it doesn't require you singling out or doing specific things. It's just improving yourself and being open to everybody who's there. That goes a very long way and is often what we're looking for to begin with.
Okay, a slightly different question. And Liz, this is sort of for you, that you raised a son who really cares about diversity. And so I'm going to turn to Ruchi, because I know her daughters have gone through our programs and have the same thing. So I want to know how you made that happen for them.
Jan, I am so grateful to you. When I was introduced to you by Samir a little bit over 10 years ago as part of the Iribe Center initiative, I found out that you were leading this program in Women in Computing. And you brought such a huge world of change, not only to my world, bringing me back to Maryland, but also to my children, who at the time were not even teenagers. They were in the elementary school. I had a 5th grader who was eager to be in the shadows of her sister, who was participating in your middle school program at CompSci Connect. And it has brought, they're a testament of a mindset that I never thought that they would have. They are curious, they give back to others, they work with their community, and they have learned the art of problem solving, which I didn't think they ever would, in the world of social media, especially, the things that they do online. So I'm very, very thankful to you for creating these programs and creating an area for curiosity and leaning on each other, especially in the kinds of group projects that you did. The trips that they went to, the NASA trips, the museums, they learned so much from these programs, and learn that you can not only just have your own voice, but you can actually inspire others to have that voice, especially for women. So thank you.
And one other question, unless anybody has to add. Okay, what common misconceptions do people have about tech? And what do you wish they knew, and how can we break those? Elias, why don't we start with you?
Funny enough, there's actually an ancient YouTube video of me answering this question as an undergrad, so I'll try to not say the same thing again. But I'd say the biggest thing is that, at least misconceptions in computing, is that you're coding, and that's the impact that you're having on society. When every line of code that you're making, I often tell my students, especially introductory students, right? Developers are decision makers. Every decision you make is being encapsulated in every line of code that you write. That, of course, nowadays is very important with AI, right? The decisions and the data that you're feeding in is making very real world, decisions for people and having impacts on people. And so I think a lot of the misconceptions in computing is that you're just doing computers, that you're just programming, but you're not having that real world impact. And it really takes people to be well-rounded students and humans to be successful in computing. And that goes a long way. And so I'm hoping, in this program, we do a good job, hopefully, of expanding students' minds and doing that. But that's definitely, I feel like outwardly looking into computing, people think that, you're very solitary, you don't talk to people, you're not good at, talking, communicating, when that's definitely not the case, especially for, students who are successful.
And Cass, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception I've seen is that computing or anything in this arena equals coding. When I think that is such a small part of this. I kind of call it the symphony that happens when we're building software. So for example, with avatars in the metaverse, I work with technical artists, 3D animators. I work with digital artists. I've worked with psychologists at Living Social to build out experiences with a kind of, choose your personality. I've worked with so many different types of people in different roles. All of these things feed into the software that we're building. And so I think when people think I'm going to go into computing, I'm just going to write code, I'm like, I'm a product manager. Sometimes I'm doing user studies and interviews and things like that. So actually just last week, I was in someone's living room watching them use a virtual reality headset and trying to figure out if they understood how to build their avatar. And so I think just kind of dispelling that of, I don't want to code, therefore I won't get into computing is going to be really important, because I can tell you right now, I work with some of the people that did some of the special effects on Pirates of the Caribbean. They're building stuff for Metaverse Avatar. So it's a really big area, and I think it's exciting, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Thank you. And so now I would like to know if we have any questions from anybody for this great panel. We're not going to try to use the lapel mic.
Hi. Hi, I was one of Jan's adult student learners back in 2012 in one of her introductory computer science classes. I already held a computer science degree, but it was from 1992, and I wanted to learn Java at the time. So I took that class, and I was absolutely blown away when I went in there, because I saw about a third of the students were female and minority. And that was something I had never experienced during my entire time as a computer science student and taking classes at the University of Maryland before. I want to speak to Moses' discussion about fitting in, because honestly, I think that's been the biggest problem. When we look at the 1960s and where women have actually done well and created things, they weren't working alone. They weren't working as one woman in a group of men. They were usually in coding pools, the computing pools, with lots and lots of other women, and they were bouncing ideas. And I think that that fight to try to fit in does tend to hold us back from making our way. And I will say also, for Cass's point about mentorship, and also Ruchi's point about mentorship, that's so important. Having those mentors there, especially we can get positions in the entry level, but getting those positions above that, when you step out and you're ready for mid-level and senior, those are much harder to actually capture. Having the mentorship there is so key. All right. That's basically, it was statements, I guess, more than questions, but
They were
thank
good
you.
statements.
I appreciate all of your work in this area.
Yeah. Anything else from the audience?
This is going to be a little more of a statement, but I'll figure out what kind of question we can get out of it. I want to just tell a little story around a lot of the inspiration around the importance of diversity and inclusion for me came from actually being at Facebook. And at Facebook, they have a strong support system and deep care about driving diversity and inclusion. And it was actually new to me. I was mostly in startups and smaller companies where, in a way, we were just kind of purely focused on what we were building. We had a lot of natural biases of surrounding ourselves with similar people, not necessarily the best people, just similar people. And I think Facebook really opened my awareness to how important diversity and inclusion is, and that we need to be thinking about it. And it's something that for many people isn't a natural path, but it should be, and it starts with raising awareness and making sure that leadership is aware of the importance, making sure that leaders eventually start caring about it, because we have a lot of natural biases that cause us to try to make rationalizations of why we haven't cared about it in the past. And I think that that's something that we're just going to be up against. And I really liked Yasmin came up yesterday and said, I'm trying so hard and I'm working so hard on this, and it's just I'm finding it to be this uphill battle to move up in this in this industry that it hasn't cared as much as it should about diversity and inclusion. And so I first off would say a big thanks to Facebook for raising my awareness, opening my eyes. And then I would turn it back on everybody that I can, including, you guys on the panel, to say, keep fighting the fight, keep driving awareness, keep, asking the hard questions, go to the leadership that you work with and raise awareness to them. Say, do we have a diverse panel here, like at the leadership level? Are we including the kind of candidates that we need to be including? And don't let people say, we just hire the best people. That's complete BS. It's like there are lots of diverse best people. What they're doing is they're just making this kind of rationalization for continuing to operate the way they have operated. It's not the best way. There are a lot of candidates that are absolutely just as capable or more capable, and they need to be included. And so keep driving that in the companies that you're in the people around you. The higher up also you guys get, make sure, don't be scared with the other people around you, with your peers, or your seniors, or the people that are reporting to you, to champion how important this is, because it can take a while to get through, but eventually you will. And it is very important. You're doing the right thing. And so I just want to congratulate all of you. I know it's very hard to do this. And it is almost like another part of the challenge that you have, that other people aren't working on, that we all should be. So thank you for the work that you do. And maybe a question is, what more could someone like me do? What could we do to support this effort?
Hi, a bunch of misfits. Misfits, yeah. The reason I say that is at Apple, we basically, I think, reading through Steve's story, he said basically at Apple they hire misfits, which is like people who feel like they don't fit in elsewhere, or come and end up at this place. And you'll be amazed at the amount of diversity in that place, because of the belief that technology, the best technology happens at the intersection of the arts and sciences. And so it's not about, we're talking about misconceptions about technology. It's not about only the nerds that propel technology forward. It's everybody else, from the arts, from different parts of the world, from different races and dimensions, that basically then come together and form these wonderful, beautiful things, right? That we all get to enjoy in our different spaces. And so in terms of what more can be done, you probably have more access in privileged places that many of us maybe may not be privy to. In those spaces, those are the messages you should preach. In the rooms you find yourself, those are messages you should be preach. Basically push people to think beyond what they know, what they're comfortable with, to take risk, because they entrepreneurs like risk taking, right? Why don't you take risks on people? Take chances. Yes, some people might fail, so not everybody will succeed, but you learn a thing or two about it and probably have a better luck next time. So it's about basically applying what we do for our own businesses to other spaces that probably we would traditionally not be comfortable or doing or providing or extending those opportunities, because a lot of the opportunities I've got is just by people taking chances on me. Probably wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case, right? And so it's extending that same opportunity to others as well.
Brendan, thank you so much for that share. I'm a mom of 2 girls, and I highly admire Dr. Plain because she's done such a wonderful job in bringing us all together and creating such great programs. But I also admire your mom. And so what I would like to ask you, where I would like to see you more involved, and that, not more involved, I'm sorry, where I'd like to get more help is there's lots of women that are in tech that start their careers really early. And, while we have our challenges with equity, we are struggling with balance. And, we are not getting that kind of flexibility that we should be. So what I'd like to see more is trying to get that to become that balance. And I know that, during the pandemic, we had a lot of flexibility. Zoom was a great help. And, so I think that's where I would like to see more help and more visuals here at Maryland. And I think Maryland has the powerhouse to do that. You know, I'm going to share a story with you. When I was younger, and I was here in computer science, I was here in 1991 where there was a recession. Graduate students that were 4.0 students weren't getting jobs. And IBM was like the Google back then. So what did I do? I had such a curious mind. I was hunting for a job. I was like, my dad didn't come all the way from that plane all over the Pacific to India, from India, and land here, and I can't get a job. I did not want to displease him. So I ran to my professor who's here, Dr. Mount, and I asked him if he could sponsor me for an opportunity that I received as a co-op at IBM. So I think, you know, there was some kind of drive in me that did that, and where I was able to have that voice. But I think, you know, fast forwarded into my years, you know, there's lots of choices that I've made personally that have really just brought lots of change in my career trajectory. And I see that with a lot of women at Women Tech Makers, at Google Dev Communities, and a lot of women in the New York Junior League and junior leagues across that are professionals. They leave their careers. So what is it that we can do to really help them come back? That's where I think would be the greatest gift.
We're about out of time. I want to answer that question because I want to say that whatever piece you contribute to improving diversity and inclusion, it's one piece that's better, because one person can't make the big difference. And this might sound funny, but I worked for a while in Afghanistan and I learned a Dari proverb, which was Katra Katra Dari Amesha, which is drop by drop a river is made. So everything that you do, so even if you are helping one person who is underrepresented in the field to move forward, you are making that big difference, because all together we can make that difference. And so Kate is going to wrap us up.
You have like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I would add is we're seeing so many more women and Black people and other minority groups get in at like the junior level. So I would just say like what you could do, or not what you could do, but like you maybe like continuing the conversation at like the leadership level, and just like taking a step back and seeing, okay, like who are the people as we're getting higher and higher, and is it more diverse? Is it more people from different backgrounds? So that's the only thing I would add.
Ren, I also want to give you your flowers, because putting the equity and inclusion as a centerpiece of building this building was also a step in the right direction and thinking. So we deserve to also give you, you've already started the good job, and really being intentional about having that space and creating that space. You should be proud, and we want to say thank you for, as an alumni, I speak on my behalf, but just having that space already was wonderful as part of this building. So thank you for that.
And before I turn it over to Kate, I want to say that even though I needed to retire from the University of Maryland for family reasons, I want to say that what we've built here with the staff and the mindset change of how important diversity and inclusion is in this department, I know that this wonderful staff that we've built up is going to be able to continue it, even though I've had to leave to other state. So Kate.
Thank you. And this was a great transition. Like Moses, you set me up perfectly, right? Like, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, panelists. Like, amazing. So glad, Brendan, we wouldn't be here without you. With our efforts, like collectively all together, the number of undergraduate women in CS has grown by nearly 1,400%, from just 62 women in 2006 to 850 women today. Once just 10% of our enrolled majors, now they are 23% of our undergraduate population. 50%. We're working on it. Additionally, we have almost doubled the number of Black and Hispanic students enrolled in computer science over the last 10 years. We invite you to keep the conversations going. If you would like to support or learn more about our efforts, come upstairs and see our space. We have hands-on activities in the Dice Lounge until about 1:30 today. Also, in any of our current students, any of our alum, if you've been impacted by our programs, at 1 o'clock at the Dice Lounge, we're going to take a big group picture with Dr. Jan. So come see us at 1 o'clock. Thank you again. Thank you, panelists. And we're going to start the next panel in just a minute. Thank you, class.
And just so you know what DICE is diversity and inclusion in computing education. It has nothing to do with DICE, but it was a good name.